Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and happy Sunday. Good afternoon, everyone. A proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, wherever you're taking in your podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of it. If you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello, introduce yourself, and maybe we'll even have you chat with today's guest, Pierre Orbe, the New York State Superintendent of the Year, the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendent Principal of the Year, the K-12 Dive Principal of the Year. He's principal of DeWitt Clinton High School in New York, and grateful to him. We had some tech difficulties last week, and Pierre was fantastic, very flexible, and here we are. Take two for our podcast, but we're going to make it work. A quick word from IXL. They are our sponsor. If you're an educator, I'm sure you are using them. If you're not, their link is in the show notes. Here they are. I'd like to thank IXL for sponsoring today's podcast. Over 1 million teachers use IXL in their classroom every day. IXL is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It empowers schools with complete curriculum, thousands of instructional resources, robust reporting, assessment data, and more. It saves teachers a lot of valuable time with ready-made plans aligned to the standards and the textbooks. Built-in engagement tools like custom competitions make learning fun for students. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments. And the best part? Everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your EdTech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your students towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes, and again, appreciate IXL sponsoring today's podcast. All right, friends, let's get started. It's a beautiful Sunday, and people are out and about, but we are live with Pierre Orbe, New York State Principal of the Year. So just 1 week ago was the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments. A lot of exciting activity and the games, and one of my favorite parts of that was the video at the end, the highlight video, one shining moment. And they show the guy making the shot, and they show all these game winners and all of the highlights. And the name of the song is One Shining Moment. And in reflecting about that and thinking about that for today's show, it's not one shining moment. It's a lot of moments. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of shots. It's a lot of preparation built up over time for that one moment, for that 2-3 second shot or play in the game that may go your way, it may not. But it's a lot of moments built up over time. It's not one shining moment. That man or woman who hit that game-winning shot, it wasn't once. It was thousands of times. Like I said earlier, Pierre and I had a technical difficulty last week. This is my 400th podcast. I've done this a bunch of times. We had a problem, we adjusted, and here we are, again, making it happen. So it's never just that one moment. It's never now or now, do or die. It's now. It's built up over time. Many of those moments built up to that time. And we're going to talk about that with Pierre, how he moved the dial with his kids graduating, right? It wasn't one reading program or one thing. It was a lot of things that built up that culture in DeWitt Clinton High School. But here he is, live from New York, live from North Bergen. Pierre, welcome, my friend.
How you doing, Andrew? Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And I appreciate your flexibility. And we changed the time and date of this podcast a bunch, but here we are. And thanks for making time.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Hopefully I can contribute something to the audience.
Absolutely, Pierre. Friends, this is Pierre Orbe, the New York State Principal of the Year, the Latino Administrators Principal of the Year, and the K-12 Dive. Pierre, it's been the work of your school community. It's been your leadership at DeWitt Clinton. Let's just jump right in there. It was one of the worst performing schools in New York City. 3 principals. You were the 3rd principal. They were just waiting to shuffle you along. And here you are 9 years later. Tell us
Yeah.
how you got going on this journey and some of the things that brought you to this year.
Yeah, it was definitely not what people would consider would be your like ideal landing ground, right? It definitely wasn't, I didn't arrive there because it was the place I had originally imagined myself at. I started out at a different school under a great principal who was turning around a different program where I was a teacher who I ended up there. And, I was, somewhere in that journey, I was supposed to be going to medical school. She opened my eyes to what I could be doing in a school and under her tutelage. And she helped turn around the school, and she really trained me in a way that I don't think many of us get this sort of training. You know, she was like, I would say she's like my Mr. Miyagi. She would like if I accomplished something and I took on something that she was teaching me administratively, like whether it was deaning, she'd give me a period, like a comp period. And then if I did well with that, she would then teach me, the budgeting side and programming side of things. So she was like, everything was like wax on, wax off. And if once you've accomplished it and the car is clean, then you can move on to the next thing. So over several years, she trained me in all these different aspects. And so this school that I'm talking about, which was in Manhattan, went from like a 70% graduation rate to like perpetually into 98 to 100% graduation rate under her
Wow.
guidance. And I got to be someone who was an instrument of change alongside her. So, when you're in a community like that and you make a change and you earn the right to be at this great program now, normally you get those situations where you end up taking over that school when that principal retires. Is a lot of times what can happen, right, in an ideal setting. That didn't happen for me, right? The long and the short end of it, this person, whoever it is, there's my sixth superintendent for that school in my 10 and a half years as an AP there.
Wow.
And so, that tells you a little something about superintendency stability. Um, but this particular superintendent, for whatever reason, just didn't see that bit in me. And I can't make it any more clear or just beat around the bush anymore. I mean, I, like many people who might be listening, were in a situation where I was passed over, where I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie. And I saw what it felt like to be put into a situation
Mm.
where someone saw less of you, despite you being there present and you being the school that they would bring the other principals to come see instruction at. So you're like, well, what is this? Like, well, I'm really confused, but I'm also like, I get it. Maybe like you have someone else in mind. That's cool. I respect your decision, but I know what I was trained for. I respect my mentors. What she invested in me, and I don't think, kind of like how Sun Tzu used to say, if you want your soldiers to perform their best, you got to put them on death ground. So I was like, I need to put myself in a situation where I got to put my own back to the wall, and I got to take on something that, if they don't want to give me what I think I've earned, I'm going to go out and do it with something else that no one wants. So I said, I'll take the worst school you have. And luckily, it was New York City Department of Education, so there's plenty to choose from. But there was one. There was one that had the moniker Daily News Dishonor Roll. Most weapons confiscated, most incidents, most dropouts, all these different things. And I was like, and nobody won. And even the union had to fight for me. Like Andrew, somebody had to fight for me to actually get placed there because for whatever reason, they wanted me to still stay back where I was. So that's a greater story in itself. But yeah, I ended up at a school that had all of these issues, safety wise, graduation wise. It was in the toilet. It's like 46%, 48% was like the perpetual norm there. More than half of the
Wow.
kids are not graduating. The dropout rate was immense. There's more kids in the hallway when I went to visit than there were in classrooms. So imagine walking into, it's like a safety hazard just in itself. You walk out, like bell rings, doesn't matter. Just it's what you imagine out in the hallway. And I don't know if you could tell. I don't know if you know what the Bronx. I'm not from the Bronx, but I was like, look, this is a school like any other. These kids deserve just as much of an opportunity as the kids that I was working with over here to have a better structure of school. And I've been trained to do this. So I didn't get what I wanted. So what? Just got to move forward and go basically show what you're capable of. And that's how I arrived at DeWitt Clinton High School, and not at the best time. They were about to be taken over by the state. I remember a lot of people would say to me in different programs, I would hear the people like either saying it to me directly or behind my back, like, "Why would you take that school? Like, it's going to close in 3, 6 months. You're just going to end up being kicked back to an assistant principal somewhere." Um, but you just can't listen to that stuff. You have to believe in what you're trying to do. You have to arrive at the destination and figure out what it is that particular school needs. So that's
Pierre, I just put the article in the chat there. There was a great article by K12 Dive there on being the principal of the year. And one of the things they shared, it was on the hiring committee. One of the leaders there, deans, talked about your confidence level. You had two things that stood out in your interview: your confidence and your profound vision for what you wanted for your school. How, when the chips are down, how, when you've been passed over, how, when you're walking in to the most extremely difficult situation, can you be so confident in that manner?
Yeah, I always say like I don't derive my confidence from, you know, just like a natural, just like I wasn't born, I didn't wake up with confidence, right? What I always say is similar to what you were describing in the intro is like when you see a moment, like a highlight moment, it's not something that was derived in that moment. That shot, that game-winning shot wasn't made in that one moment. It was something that someone trained in or a team trained in to be in the play, to be in that position, to just take that shot over and over again. My confidence came from the fact that years ago I had a mentor that said to me, with good intentions, said to me, as I was training under my principal to become like she had me with a bunch of different as like mentors come in, and this mentor said when I was like working on something specifically in instruction, and she was saying, well, I was a better teacher when I was an assistant principal. I was a better assistant principal when I was a principal, and I was a better principal when I was a superintendent. And I know what she was getting at. She was getting at that, this is you know, it's okay to get better as you go through over time. But I took it and I said to her, I was like, I don't really like that saying as it is. I'd rather be so good as a teacher that people say, hey, you should be helping teachers as an assistant principal. And I want to be so good as an assistant principal. People are saying, you should be a principal. And one day I hope people are looking at what I'm doing now and saying, like, that guy should be a superintendent. It'd do well if it was leading a district. I think that's just the natural course of things for anyone who's played sports. That's just kind of how things work. You're either playing in the game because you've demonstrated a level of skill that you fell into the hierarchy and you demonstrated. So my confidence doesn't derive from some sort of like place where I'm just like I wake up and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you're the man. Like that's not where any of that comes from. It comes from a place where if you put the work in every day when you go to work as a teacher and you practice your craft, your lesson planning, your engagement with students, the adjustments you have to make to ensure that they're successful and the ability to build those relationships, then you're going to do pretty well. And then your confidence will then be like, you're not going to be sitting there saying like, well, I hope I could be a good assistant principal. You're saying, well, like, I know what it looks like to take on the challenging classes. I used to, as a teacher, take on the class that all the kids that they would say, like the other classes, that if we remove those kids and put them into someone's class, like the other classes will function like at a higher level. And they'll be like, essentially like they jettison. But I was like, great, yes, bring to me, because not only I want to work with anyone, right? But I'm willing to take that on because my mentality is, yeah, that's going to be hard. But if I face it, I'm going to get better every day. And then by the time it ends, like the story ends, the result is I'm just going to be a sharpened tool in that particular area. And so that's where my confidence comes from. As far as my plan, I learned a lot from my mentor principal as well. And I would say probably my family about just like visioning. Like I really, my creative process is pretty I would say open-minded. When I have meetings, I don't people have gotten used to these meetings with me, but it's pretty much just like everything's on the table. Like there's not a single thing where like we did this one project on my or program at my school for attendance where there was a low attendance day before Christmas holidays. So we did this whole thing where we were like, what would it look like if we just because the kids kept talking about trips when we'd survey them, when they want trips. I was like, what would it look like if we did a whole school trip the day before we went? And I was like, what would it look like if we all stormed 42nd Street? Because like 42nd Street has like every possible thing. It's got Bolero, it's got movie theaters, it's got ice skating. So we did it. Like it took logistics. It took months of logistics, like walking through 42nd, but we did it because my visioning process is not to limit my ideas to what are like quote unquote good ideas. I come up with plenty of dumb ideas. Get to some decent ideas. And then, so I encourage those around me to do the same because, people say there's no bad and there's no stupid questions. I was like, yeah, there's plenty of stupid questions, but they're valuable. Like there's plenty of like dumb ideas, but they're also valuable to get to some good ones. So yeah, I was like, I don't have, maybe a good enough filter, Andrew, sometimes where I just will just come up with some ideas and people will be like, well, he's confident enough to say them. I'm like, well, yeah.
Did you have better attendance on that day?
We have. We've since we've done that event and others like it, we have consistently stayed on a day where it used to fall into like the 50-60% attendance rate. We're now
Wow.
consistently between 80 and 85% on those days, which
Wow.
are tough. It's tough before the break. We get it, but like we're proud to say it's definitely moving in the right direction. So
Well, Pierre, you said earlier that when the story ends, when the story it hasn't ended, but the story has a new chapter, and this is you being the principal of the year and a lot of different organizations there. And again, the boat is still moving forward. School's still happening, but this had to feel pretty good. What did this moment feel like for you, being the leader? And in that moment, there you are on stage with Ronnie. I can't pronounce his last name. Nunzo from NASSP receiving the award. But what did this mean for you and your team at DeWitt Clinton?
I mean, first I'll always say like it was unexpected, right? Because a lot of times when you're doing this work, you're not really doing it with this like focus. Like the goal is not recognition. Often when we're doing this, like I told you about how I had an axe to grind and a chip on my shoulder when I arrived at the school. So that aside, once you get into the work, my goals were developing my assistant principals. My goals were seeing my teachers be in positions where they could run like a kind of like a Bill Belichick sort of system where they're like running a short race and it doesn't matter. Everyone can be a great utility player. I'm not looking for stars. I'm looking for everyone to like run that short sprint that they have to run to do well. So I sat there. We as a team between students finally realizing that they could come to their principal and tell them what they want in their school, and we would actually work to make that happen. Between parents no longer feeling that they had to complain as much as they just could have to just bring up ideas, and we would take them seriously. And just staff being invested in wanting to be present and adaptive to what are the needs of students and what are the instruction. Between doing all that work, I mean, it meant that we finally, as a community, while the moniker all falls under like principal of the year, no principal out there is of any like result that's a high end result or a positive outcome is going to ever get there without the support of their teachers, staff, students, and family. So we, and community partners, not to be left out, but so it meant a lot in terms of all those days we put in and we still continue to put in to ensure that we're turning a school that when everyone around us in New York City is seeing declining enrollment, we're seeing like increased enrollment. And that like this recognition was just another call to, it's like I think Joe Sanfilippo, he talks about like telling your story because our school, when you get a bad reputation, it's like being a losing team. You know how hard it is. Like, we're talking about like the New York Jets. Let's say we're like been struggling to be a winning team for a while. But you stick with them. we were this team was probably whatever is worse than that. And so people didn't want to go to the school. If you mentioned it, if your child got matched to the school in enrollment, they would go to the enrollment office and ask to be go somewhere else, like anywhere else. So this meant everything when it came to people being able to put out to the school, to our community that like, hey, maybe you don't know this because, sometimes news takes a while to catch up, but our school's been doing well for some time now. And yeah, it's true. We did have a really bad patch back there, but we're doing the right work. Your kids will be safe here. They will thrive here. We want to ensure that, we're not perfect, but we want to make sure that we're always learning from our mistakes. And so that meant it. But on a personal note, like, and Andrew, you know this, like this work is hard. You make unintentional enemies. You make unintentional people who just maybe don't see eye to eye with what you're trying to do, and you have to make tough decisions. And sometimes those tough decisions end up normally in bad publicity. My name, luckily, my mom doesn't know how to use the internet that well, but like, but and I always was kind of happy about that because there was a lot of negative publicity attached to the school and me as a result over the years, and so I just took it on the chin, and this is just the price of doing business, and I accepted it as that. But on a personal side, you'd be lying to yourself if you don't want your parents to be proud of you, right? I'm an older person at this point, so it sounds childish to say it, but it's true. I still want my mom to be proud of me. My father, who's not with me, who means the world to me still. His name and his legacy mattered to me, so I don't want to tarnish that with being some sort of principal that just has bad publicity and linked to their name. So personally, it meant a lot. Like I would take these anything that was written that was positive, and I'd always print it out, and then I'd bring it to my father's resting place, and just kind of sit there and just kind of take a moment to just say like let him know like from the distance that your son is doing something that ensure that your legacy is isn't on solid footing, on solid ground, and then I'm fighting the good fight, even if sometimes it doesn't always go the perfect straight line that we want it to. So yeah, I mean, this meant a lot. It meant for a lot for the community, but it also meant a lot for me and my family and legacy.
Yeah, beautiful. Your parents from Ecuador here. You talked about your dad a lot on our last non-show there. Um, but you were on a different course, and your dad was part of the change of bringing the education. You were going to medical school, as you mentioned earlier. You studied neuroscience. Like, you're one heck of a bright guy, Pierre. Tell me about that change in the course there of your life, and were you first kind of like, were you disappointed at first that you didn't go to medical school? What did that feel like, and how the change?
So I studied neurobiology and neuroscience specifically because my older brother, like many family members out there, has been afflicted with being on the spectrum for autism and struggles with making social competency connections and things that we take sometimes for granted. So I always had this dream and this vision to want to be, working in a clinical setting where I would provide similar to physical therapists who are trying to help you when you have you've broken a tendon or a ligament is gone. Now they try and strengthen your other muscles to ensure that they can overcompensate for what's no longer going to be there. And I would just take the same theory. I was like, well, if I can learn enough about the brain and help my brother with over embellishing regions of the brain that he is good at. He's not missing intelligence. He just happens to be not his certain areas of his brain are not as active as the social competency parts that others are. So that was my dream, right? I ended up, my dad said, he's like, look, I've taken you as far as I can, as far as university. You're the first person in our family to go to university. He's like, look, I'm very proud of you. But he was like, wake up call. He's like, you gotta get a job. He's he's like, I can't pay for any more of this. Medical school's way more expensive, and this would be good for you to get a job that's related to what you're doing. And so he brought me a flyer. This was before they were teach NYC. This was before they were teaching fellows or any of that stuff. It just brought me a flyer, and I thought it would be like a teaching assistant or something. Like I go into the interview, I come out as a teacher, unlicensed, nothing. I was like, I have no ed credits, but that's education for you. I was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. So I walk in the first day, I realize how uninteresting not only I am, but how how much kids really don't like science as much as I liked it. So I could see it on their faces. I could see by the fact that I was like, they gave me a handout that said things that I should break my time of 45 minutes up into. But I didn't have any training in this, so I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "I really need to figure this out." So I just started to really hone in on some of the things that I did in my background and my neuroscience about what it is that will help kids create relevance and motivation around learning. And so, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, which are the motivators for your lesson, your hooks, your like, the where's the context, the framing, and I worked a lot on that. And I started seeing that kids that I was working at, even though they weren't maybe on the same level of deficits that my brother was, there were plenty of students that had different deficits,
Yeah.
and ones that were just not being called out, and some that were just, "Hey, I just don't like this subject, and I wish you would make it relevant for me." Or as the kids would say, "Why do I need to know this, mister?" And I worked really hard on that, and I really fell in love with what I was doing. And back to your question, do I miss like I found my calling without necessarily realizing it. Do I miss it? In the back of my mind, it's part of the reason probably why I'm doing a doctorate and I'm probably doing one that's so technical because I do always have something to prove to some extent. I was like, there's parts of me that sometimes feel like that guy who wants to come out of retirement and go and pitch a game. And that's kind of how I feel sometimes when it comes to wanting to go back and say like, I still think I could be a doctor. Um, but I think I've done pretty well in this profession, and it doesn't, I think we just always have that desire to want to grow. And I wanted to always make an impact, and I've had a chance to make an impact over the course of this career. So that's kind of how I ended up in this, and I don't look back and regret. I look back more and like, well, I just got to keep challenging myself.
Yeah. Well, and that growth is there, the impact is there. One of the things about being principal of the year, Pierre, is you go to events and they ask you to speak. I was there when you spoke, and you mentioned Joe Sanfilippo. Tell me about preparing for that keynote speech at Saney's. You have a room full of your peers and your colleagues, and they're thinking, "Hey, man, I'd like to be principal of the year one day." But how did you prepare for that event, and how do you make it relevant to your audience, like you just said?
It's definitely normally I'm not normally asked. Well, as you said, now I am, but normally I wasn't used to being asked to speak, much less speak for a keynote of about an hour of something valuable that your audience would take from it. So it was something that when I first thought about it, I was like, what could I contribute to my peers and my colleagues about my journey? And I thought long and hard about this because I've been writing about this work just because I've been preparing for what does life look like beyond this current role. We talked earlier about how I just kind of mentally always think of things in terms of if you do this work really well, the natural progression is to move upwards because then you became so good at this role because you've really been training towards doing that role up there because you believe you can amplify your impact even greater. So
Mhm.
I've been writing a lot about this in a book that I hopefully will get out in the next 6 to 8 months. But yeah, I had something that I've been writing about, and I started to grasp from that. And I always think it's important. I guess I would say that to anyone who's listening, that as you're on a journey like this, you probably should write some of these things down. I would often just kind of I'm not, when it comes to this, like super on the spot when I need to be, but sometimes I just take my little voice recorder and I'll just literally just start speaking a couple of lines that just go through my head. And And really where a lot of this keynote came from was like the name of the book is called The Price of Leadership. And the idea behind it is that we all, I don't think any of us really start out as a child or wherever you're at saying, I want to be a leader. You end up having a series of events that are either consequential or obstacle based. And and when that happens, there a price was paid, either for your leadership or, against it. And when I thought about it, I thought about, well, what were the prices that were paid in my life that I would want to share with this audience that I think might be beneficial that people hear? And I shared the story of the price that was paid by my parents, when they came here, specifically how they had to, like, what were the values that they wanted to instill into their children, and how did that price pay out when it came to my older brother, who wasn't, as you might like kind of just say, like out of the box, as functional as others, and what that impact had on me, and just telling that story and how you get from all that to how all those collective, that constellation of prices leads to something. It leads to experiences that even impact you as early as when you're younger, as early as like when I was a child, like having to prove myself in my first like baseball, like little league play, and not being given the chance, and not being told that, I could play the position I wanted to play, and the one that I'd been training to play. So I had been overlooked from a child as a child, but I had an awareness because of all of the things that happened, the prices that my parents paid, that my older brother paid, that ultimately it instilled in me a certain, grit, a certain mindset that, okay, you don't see it. It's fine. It's fine if you don't see it right now. But at some point, I'll be willing to take this. I'll be willing to step forward and put myself on the line when it's the hardest moment, when the team needs me, and when no one else wants to step up. I'll be willing to take that step forward because that's my niche, because that's the price that was paid for me. So when I thought about that keynote, I said to myself, I was like, I think that's probably the most valuable thing I could share with my colleagues, who I'm sure have plenty they could share with me as well, and that I hope that they'll get benefit from.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there for it, Pierre. But again, speaking in that group, it was a big deal. And congratulations. You and Joe Sanfilippo. How about
Yeah,
it?
I don't think many people would put our two names next to each other outside. He's doing great, and I can see why. I listened to his talk, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. Pierre, speaking of speaking, if you would be with me for a second here, that's one of the things I do outside of school as well. And here's a little infomercial on that.
Are you looking for a speaker for your next event? What is it? Opening day of school, a summer leadership event, professional development for next year, a business meeting? Andrew Murata is ready to be your speaker. For the past 7 years, Andrew has been speaking to schools, businesses, and civic organizations, bringing energy, enthusiasm, and real connection to every audience. Connect with Andrew to learn more. He would be honored and excited to support your team with the spirit, motivation, and inspiration you're looking for.
All right. Thank you for that. Pierre, 10 years, going on 10 years here, principal. There's a lot of new principals that are barely just surviving their first year. There are a lot of principals that aren't being successful. Give me three real, live, practical things that leaders should be doing every day in schools.
So I think one thing is definitely listening. Like, I think we often think that we have to come into the position with the answers, and I actually just, I think that's not true. I think we often, if we listen well, the answers are often found in those, whether you want to call them complaints, you want to call them just like grievances or whatever it is. Just, just got to read between the lines. Listen. I would say two is, is stay disciplined to your what the information is saying. So once you've listened, stay really disciplined to, like, for me, when I've listened long enough, I realized that my school needed a certain degree of dedication to certain meetings. So discipline and dedication for me go together because I want to stay consistent with certain meetings that I know we're not going to solve the Rubik's Cube of the issue in one meeting, but we better keep having that meeting, and we better keep looking at artifacts related to that issue, whether it's instruction, whether it's data, whether it's communication, whether it's operations. Like we need to have those meetings consistently and stay disciplined and dedicated to solving what we're trying to go to it, right? It's like an essential question. You just got to keep aiming at it. So once I've listened, I've extracted my essential question, I'm dedicated to it, and I'm just consistently like attacking that. And just the last part is just be okay with being wrong. Like I'm really okay with being wrong. I'm probably one of the best at being wrong. I think it's my science background. I'm okay with it. It's a valuable skill. So I'll sometimes go half cocked into something, an idea that isn't fully fleshed out, because I'm so excited to see in this little experiment of life how it's going to work out. And then when other people, and I have plenty of colleagues or assistant principals and teachers who would be like, "Well, maybe we should do this," and I was like, "Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. Let's just try it. Let's see what happens." Because and then I'll encourage them to do the same, because I was like, it's okay to do trial and error. I was like, now I'm not saying that with everything, right? But with a great deal of things, I just encourage people to just be okay with being wrong, and just that's just it. I'm more motivated to put myself into the ring, and like if the first round didn't go so well, all right, well, let's make the adjustments because we're not getting knocked out.
It goes back to the beginning of the show here with that self-confidence combined with that vision, because you know where you're going, and it might not have gone your way, just like our technology in the first one. Well, here we're back to it, and it's been a great podcast here. Pierre, you also you focus on your health. You mentioned the sports and some of the activities that you've always enjoyed growing up, but your morning routine and focusing on your health. Talk to me about some of those routines that you do to take care of yourself. Because again, if the principal's not feeling well, if the principal's not taking care of themselves, that leads to things not good in your school. So talk to me about some of those.
Yeah, I try it. I mean, you know how like we jokingly say is like people would put on the freshman 15 when they go on to college and things like that. Like, this doesn't change when you enter the career, right? You become a teacher, you become an assistant principal, like wherever you're at. This career is really hard. There's a lot of work that gets done every day. I mean, the lifespan of a principal and a superintendent and all these roles, like they're high level of stress. And so we take on the stress of our students, our staff, and all of the community. And how do you do that in a way that is healthy? You really don't, right? You often, if you're healthy about it, you find a way to detach a little bit. And that's where I think, exercise and routines come in, because I used to work out after school a lot, but then I built a gym for the students, like, yeah, and me. But I basically in this gym, like we were limited in our facilities for working out. So we built out a whole floor where there used to be locker rooms. We built out a gym. We put a boxing area, and we put indoor batting cages. We put like the PRX, the ones that come off the wall, and you pretty much have your squat rack, your pull-up bar, you got your bench press, all that can fold off the wall. We put a bunch of those up so the football team and all that can train. But you know what, Andrew, when I arrive there at around 6 o'clock in the morning, that's the first thing I go to. I have my whole routine where I'm doing several boxing workouts throughout the week, and I'm doing several just calisthenics and just like different leg day workouts I'm doing. And then there's the shower there, and we don't have hot water in the building. It's just cold water straight through. So it's like, I'm told scientifically it's fantastic for me. So, so that's my opening day shock. And so if I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is just, sometimes I don't want to do much, and but I got to do something. So I jump out of bed, I bring my clothes with me in the garment bag, and then I'm just pretty much in the gym, knock out what I need to knock out, and then I get into that shower, and I dress up, and I'm out there, and I'm like, I've already done the work that I need to do to face the day. It's some of the hardest things I'll do already. So then if you do something hard already in the beginning of the day, yeah, can the day get harder? Sometimes it does. But often I find that this makes it so that everything else is diminishingly hard, less hard. I mean, so it just makes it a little easier for me. So I do that all the time. And, and I go in on Saturdays too. So we have like Saturday programs like a lot of schools have. And we've got a bunch of different programs that are going on at that time. So I'll get in there also before the kids do also, and just make sure that I knock this out for that reason. So it's just, I don't want to be that person. I mean, I'm in this for the long run. I don't want to be that person who we look at, it's like they just like, we hear a lot of stories where people just like they stop working. It's like it's over. No, I want to take care of myself. I want to be present. I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to take care. Like it's like on the plane, right? If you don't take care of yourself first, how are you going to take care of anyone else?
That's right. That's right. Well, you're doing it. You're living it. DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx there, 9 years, Principal of the Year. Pierre, congratulations on all of these things, the work you're doing. And in the midst of all of this, he's getting his doctorate. He's writing a book, and it's just very impressive, Pierre. Anything else you wanted to share before we get to rapid fire here? And I know you got some other things you got to bang out today, but anything else you wanted to share?
Sure. I'm happy and excited to share that I'll be presenting or speaking at Character Strong in their national conference this summer in Tacoma, Washington. So
fantastic.
Anyone else going out there, hopefully you'll get a chance to hear me and maybe participate in my breakout session.
Fantastic. And they could learn more about that at characterstrong.com?
Yep. I don't know if they have my specific up there yet, but I know that we'll be putting up videos up there for the different speakers, and I'll be one of those speakers. So I'll be on the last day. So if anyone's planning on cutting out before the end of the week, well, then you'll just miss out on this guy here. But
they got to stay for the anchor, man. Congratulations. That's awesome. And good luck with that. Yeah. Well, cool, Pierre. These are rapid fire questions. All right. The bell's about to ring. We're gonna finish up class here, so we'll squeeze these in. Are you ready?
As ready as I can be.
I mean, I don't want to put pressure on you. Principal of the Year. These are difficult questions here. Here we go. Last movie you saw?
Get Carter, Sylvester Stallone. I don't know.
Last concert you went to?
Motley Crue and Def Leppard at Citi Field.
How about that? Okay. Last song you sang out loud in the car?
Eddie Vedder's Society.
Your last mistake?
This morning when I put the wrong table in the wrong section of the appendix, and now I have to go back and relabel all the tables.
Ooh. One thing that you learned in 2026?
That there is a relationship between your leadership frames and how you might create certain conditions in a school.
Absolutely. And you're living that, you're doing that. This summer, you will fill in the blank.
Hopefully defend my dissertation.
And you have a book coming too with that, correct?
I hope the book will finish this summer. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, it's a work in progress for sure. Your best new principal advice. Maybe there's somebody out there like you that came in mid-year. Maybe they were at the second semester. What's your best new principal advice?
Fail in the place and the way that you want to.
Say it one more time.
Fail in the way and in the place that you want to.
I love it, Pierre. That confidence again, not being afraid to fail. I know you're a big baseball guy, Pierre. Who's your sports team?
I'm a Mets fan, just since I was a kid.
Okay. How's the team so far?
We're about one game back right now, but it's a whole new team at this point, so it's all about getting the chemistry back in there, get the pitching staff all together, get everyone rolling.
86 Mets. I was 11 years old. It was a dream.
It was a long time ago. We almost got there with the Dark Knight back against Kansas City. I don't know how we lost to them back there. Whenever it was 2015 or something. It's been a while. I had some hopes for last year, and then we just fell right off the rails at the end.
Yes, they did. They did for sure. One thing you're curious about, Pierre?
One thing I'm curious about. Oh, geez, that one's stumping me right now. But I'm curious how long I can go without eating today before I finish my work.
You haven't eaten yet.
No, not yet. But I've been intermittently fasting, is how I'll say it.
Wow. Good for you, man. That's I know there's benefits there. That's challenging to do, especially when you're doing the technical work you're doing. Something about Pierre Orbe that people do not know about.
Let's see. I think I would say that I I am like, well, aside with writing the book, is that I guess a lot of people wouldn't know that I speak another language, that my first language was actually Spanish, and that I've learned over the years because of my Spanish, been able to acquire another language in Brazilian Portuguese.
Fantastic. How about a quote, Pierre? Do you have a favorite quote or something that's hanging on your wall in your office that means a lot to you? Can you end the show with a quote?
Sure, I think I'll use Chuck Palahniuk's quote from Fight Club is it's not until we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
Pierre Orbe, friends, round of applause. If you're in the chat, if you're in the show, jump in the chat, say hello. Pierre, congratulations on all the things happening to you. Any other speeches or anything related to the Principal of the Year stuff?
We'll see. A couple other things that may just being ironed out right now, but right now, yeah, the focus is going to be it's going to be in Dallas for I think it's called like the Big Bang Conference as well, which
Okay.
is happening in July as well. So I'll be out there as part of a fellowship that I'm doing. So see how that goes, and just keeping myself sharp, just trying to train in as many different programs that are out there and available. As you said, I'm trying to get that book out and just get my doctorate done. Plenty of stuff. I hope people will see and read the study, and then hopefully read the book. But the study I'm very proud of, just because we're seeing good results, and that I hope that this will benefit future school environments, whether it's training or whether it's hiring potentially different individuals. That maybe it could be a little bit done in a more predictive way, so that for the benefit of not only the school, the students, and the district, but also for that individual. So that they always talk about fit being important, people being in the right fit, whether it's a position at a district level or otherwise. And I think I agree with that, but I'd like the fit to be something more tangible than like intuitive.
Well, hopefully the leaders at that former school that didn't hire you, maybe this will help them in the future to get the right guy, because clearly they did not do that with you. So, but congratulations, right? You turned a negative into a positive and continue to run with it at DeWitt Clinton High School. And thank you, Pierre, for making education a place where people want to be, and certainly in that school district. So congratulations.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Same to you. You've, we're all out there kind of carving our own spaces specifically to help our students in our communities, and you've done a great deal of work in that area. So I congratulate you as well, and thank you for having me on your show, and much success to you as well.
Awesome. Well, I got my people, Port Jervis, New York here, proud of us here in Orange County. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Get something to eat, my friend, and keep surviving and thriving. Pierre Orbe, friends, check him out, and good luck with all those upcoming speeches.
Thank you. You have a great day as well.
Cool. Stay on the line a second, Pierre. Friends, have a great day and certainly a great week of school. Keep surviving and thriving.